What's the story about the possible renaming of the Southbank Centre?
There was a fairly wide-ranging conversation with the head of the Southbank in which she basically said, we don't have enough money to repair this huge, vast building. That's what you've always got to think about the Southbank, the size of that enormous Brutalist concrete building. And I think somebody said, would you consider selling naming rights? And I think she's probably said, do you know what, we're so short of cash, I'd consider pretty much anything. So I don't think they've said, yes, we're definitely going to do it yet, and this is the plan. And I think she was more using it as a kind of, this is how bad things are, that we would consider selling off. I mean, they may well do, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show, it goes to show a couple of things, doesn't it? That post-COVID, the arts have recovered, but they've not recovered fully to what they were. So things like, I'm sure at the Southbank, their ticket sales will be down, things like that. Also, budget cuts have come in year on year from the Arts Council, from government. We know that it doesn't matter whether you're talking about the arts or the National Health Service or social care or schools or whatever, we are not flush with cash at the moment, are we? And what she's basically saying is that we need more. And also, I think at the minute, if you're an arts administrator, not unlike anything else, it's a bit like the high street. You see the big shops closing down because obviously we've had huge rise in energy bills. Small is beautiful at the minute. If you've got an enormous building that needs heating, water, lights, that's just blown a hole in your budget. Whether it's an arts centre, department store, further education college, whatever it may be, you've had to rapidly change your budgeting because a huge amount is going on energy now. As the sun comes out and people stroll down by the river, everyone loves the Southbank, don't they? But how many people stroll down the river and go in through the doors rather than just have it as the background of their photos? Times are tough, and it's a big old building with a lot of staff. We've seen the same at the Barbican. There's a big master plan at the Barbican to try to sort of rebuild and fix some of it. These are all big post-war buildings that, time is probably catching up with them, and they're very, very expensive to run and maintain. We all want them to stay, so they need it to be well run and maintained, but it's an expensive business.
In terms of the health and, crucially, the funding of London's art scene post-COVID, are you optimistic there's a way out to bolster the coffers?
There's a way forward. I don't think there's a way out. I don't think there's a magic wand at all. And I don't get any sense that, and this is where we get into ifs and buts, isn't it? If there is an election this year, and if we have a change of government, I don't expect there suddenly to be a massive increase in budget. There might be slightly more sympathetic here, but I don't think they're going to give them a lot more money. I think we could be at a tipping point, basically. Something like the Southbank, built for, after the Festival of Britain, when, we were emerging, but, bankrupt again from the Second World War, but we still found the money to pay for it. But that was all about the state paying for huge, grand schemes. And I think maybe those days are gone. And that's what Elaine was getting at in the Southbank. In America, what would happen is a philanthropist would give them millions and millions of pounds, and that would pay for it. And of course, that philanthropist would probably get their name on something, whether it's a room, a gallery, or the entire shebang, which is sort of what she was suggesting. We've never quite gone into that. We don't have that sort of tradition of philanthropy that America have. In America, it's sort of very set up with tax breaks, things like that. And that may be something we see a new government bringing in that makes it easier to give money, easier to give more money, easier to give more money regularly. And that might change things. But then, you probably end up with the Southbank Centre being called the Mr. John Smith Southbank Centre if they find someone to pay for it. So, interesting times. I don't think there's an easy way out of it. It just comes down to, putting on anything artistic on that scale like the Southbank does is not cheap. There's huge amounts of staff. It's a huge building. They have to keep the lifts working. They have to keep the lights on. And that's even before you get to, bringing in the artists and deciding the work and programming the work. It's a heck of a job. I don't envy her.
There's more on this story in the Evening Standard newspaper and online at standard.co.uk. We're back on Thursday at 4 p.m.